Welcome, 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 welcome. How's everybody doing? Smooth? How are you? I'm tired. Very, very tired. Tired, but being more and more energized by the millisecond to see you all. Really, it's a presence I don't take for granted. I brought for you a merry band of misfits for your listening pleasure. If we just gonna dive right in, is that cool? Right on. So you're in for 3 treats. First, dessert is there you meet many geniuses along the way, but every once in a while you actually meet one through the course of political struggle, before you know even what they can do to a microphone. And so this very, very, very special poet I met when we were in the trenches of the Mario Woods struggle. I don't know how many of you all are familiar with what happened. SFPD overkilled Mario Woods. What was this? 2016 or 15, something like that. So in doing organizing, we wandered into each other's lives, and we have been thicker than blood ever since. Brilliant poet, child whisperer, brilliant teacher. And actually, I brought a couple too. Actually, they all teachers. Sorry, I just used that one up. You know what I'm saying? Everybody else, I'll figure out something else to say about you. But first, man, please feel welcome, LadiRev.
What's good, everybody? How y'all living? That's what's up. Originally, I was gonna come here and say some wild, outlandish shit, but I'm gonna be a little more cool today. So I got some new pieces that I wanted to try to get out and see how it goes. And I got a little bit of time, so I'm gonna spit a couple of them. This first one is called A Thin Line Between Life and Death. You think 'cause you be breathing that you actually be alive. You think your tear-filled, dry eyes see the same truths that men see feet stand between cliffs and open air. Hope stands between jumping and skydiving. Purpose be left irrelevant on bathroom floors. If you hold your breath long enough, you could witness angels sinning with their eyes closed. If you just shut down your consciousness, then you could hear the spirits whispering about our ancestors' failures. Who do you think you are? This be flatland. Every line is meant to be crossed. Yeah, it was short. I don't really write a lot of short shit, but that one was short. This next poem doesn't really have a title. It's based off of War Baby by Roddy Ricch. I'm not sure if y'all know that song, but it slaps. Go hear it. I'm from the bottom of the bottom, check your sources, baby. I'm a war baby, I'm a war baby. Did you know if you take it in the right dosage, trauma can create this metamorphic view of a fallen world? Your third eye can be revealed and you will bring souls back from the pits of white man hell. Your tongue will breathe fire on every light of day. And your aura will radiate at such high levels that even white women will want to tan. Did you know that trauma is so powerful that it creates coal from diamonds and they sell out on store shelves? It can produce experiences that fascinate Hollywood and justify poverty simultaneously. Trauma does not mean dying, does not mean death. It is our ability to be beaten, forced down, raped, ravaged, stolen from, lied to, cheated, abused, children murdered, brothers martyred, maintain toxicity between mothers and daughters, erasing black fathers, and still believe that the American dream, the melting pot meme, actually belongs to us. You know, whiteness as a gift for black disgust. Because happiness, fulfillment can never intentionally come from us. If you inhale oppression, you don't get asthma. Instead, you build stamina to fight for your life one more day. The Guinness World Record for holding breath underwater is 4 minutes and 40 seconds, but living within oppression can teach you how to hold your breath under pressure for a lifetime. Functioning in white inferiority can teach you how to assimilate in the womb. Living in poverty teaches you where to not grow where there is no room, and concrete is everyone's destiny. Trauma and correct doses will teach you not to want anything else but more trauma. A little nervous, you know. Another untitled piece. Yeah, don't know what to call it. Generational curses serve as playing field for corrupt cops. Sometimes, freedom is hidden in life choices that you don't get to make. It's hard to see little kids' innocence auctioned off in classrooms, so we turn on TVs instead. Cali King beds rest heads of fallen gangsters whose mothers shunned their fathers. Black folks ain't never been free. Grocery shopping is capitalism disguised as food equity. Prison reform can't actually be established because masters ain't trading high-yield stock. Stimulate foreign tongues with stories of American dreams. You are only as good as you put out. Dirty hands build cities, not the poor. A society must be conducive to crime, that's why we at war. Ain't nobody in America free. Chains don't sell like they used to. Grandma's voodoo can't always protect you. Streets grit their teeth at empty clips. Rain don't cleanse acid, that's why we need blood. Grass grows in every mind that witnesses martyrdom in sunlight. What's freedom anyway? Lick lips chasing savory guava leaves filled with disappointment, resentment, and coffee mugs. You don't even know yourself. Why should I? Gamble away liberty to profit private laws. Don't nothing humble you like a jailhouse. Trauma fuels the economy. I know all this don't make sense. It's not supposed to. The world wasn't made to live. How am I doing on time? Okay. This one's called We Carry. We carry loads of souls to the borders of free land. Broken hearts guide footsteps to revelations not yet received. Ignorance tastes like candy. 380s bang daily so that children learn to count. How many bullets does it take to break 500-year-old chains? There aren't different names, and every face blends together. Life be a mural dedicated to seeds never planted. Shit, air ain't cheap. And holes till ground looking for love underneath. We carry sadness like divine carries us. Collect tears in empty buildings to fund commissary for angered white folks. Trees move faster. Leaves painted by secrets kept in when we live in cemetery, and we carry dead babies in metal strollers. Tongues clipped yield better crops. Your medicine be penance for every time you allowed your mind to break cycles. When retracing did not erase the smell of falling clouds, and so we carry pieces. With arms bleeding and backs stomped in. Unlevel ground looks steep, but we really just walking. Barrettes pattern the reflection of sun, and suns hold those hands. Freedom cannot be free. Palms cracked, rubbery grasp on concrete buildings. Someone must build it. We carry fertilizer to our graves to show our commitment. We made it here. Without mothers, without fathers, without love, without hope, without fearing ghosts of ourselves, carrying shit that we don't even need to uplift new hearts. Reconfigured limbs lead to holy water, and we carry cups. Just enough to not give up. There is no last breath. Almost ain't enough. But bricks build legacy. Okay, this is my last one, and I'm about out of here. Passing it on. I think I'm gonna call it Death Ain't Sacred No More. Death ain't sacred no more. Souls is already lost before the body is housed in coffins. Sometimes mourning feels like tradition. Sometimes blood on concrete mirrors sun rays. Whole time we crying, losing bits of memory. We not even breathing. Can't see past a certain distance, call upon ancestors you've never even mentioned. Resentment is a source of clearer vision. The moon is just a projection of spirits stuck in limbo. Ain't no privilege in pain. Cemeteries are full, stacked bodies flood our gardens, children are eating those crops. Only thieves find pleasure in distorting lineage. Greed compromises. Sanity takes away choices. You still trying to learn yourself. Premature transition as a rite of passage. These legends ain't shit but myths. Despair feels like love. Depression feels like hope. Ain't no truth in stolen land. We all just trying to make it. Internal struggles replace conversation in public spaces, and those voices derail. They derail the quality of life. Shit, life is too expensive anyway, so. But death ain't sacred no more. And there are more souls than human hosts. I wonder if the land of ancestors is polluted with innocence. Can they house all these masters while fate play ignorant? Jealousy finds those who's cheated the struggle. Revolution falls on the shoulders of gangsters and others who don't even know how to love themselves. Gods turn their faces, disassociated from empty prayers. You commit treason every time you inhale, just passively breathing without permission. But death ain't sacred no more.
Right on. So next up to the microphone, you know what, I gotta double up, man, because I gotta talk about, again, just somebody who is really just a gift to the people and have put in so many anonymous hours, just helping the miracle of education along, and equal to the, just kind of the water I've seen her walk on in a classroom in some of the most disregarded places, is this once in a generation talent, I'll get out the way, but a real warrior of brilliance. I'll let her do the rest. Meilani Clay.
The Black woman is God in a world hell-bent on being heathen. Betrayed by those at our right hand, hung out to die, knowing streets and temples will teem with parishioners when it is time to mourn our passing. We show up anyway, to make feasts from scraps, wield rage for a future eons beyond this one, and yet our names are only ever uttered soft, in prayer, whispered close to clavicle and exhale on lips before sleep. We call to you over the roar of the ocean's hush, but you don't trust you enough to meet us in the storm. All our prophets must be false if our names can gild the tongues of pretentious pagans at performative protests, when only Black women can hold the syllables in our mouths with the reverence they deserve. We have wept, wiped libation from our faces only to have it replaced with spit. No matter our weary, we resist rest so long as any of you are refused respite. Though our bodies blanket this earth from end to end, we continue to offer ourselves to mobs of marauders. Though we still the crashing currents to soothe your worry, we remain the Black woman, a God, rarely granted grace, and still how hallowed be, how holy be our names. Thank you to Natalie for organizing this event. Shout out to folks who are new at their roles. And thank you to Tongo for having me, and then just LadiRev and Landon to share space and stage with y'all is a gift for real. All my attackers must be R. Kelly's and Bill Cosby's, pedophiles or perverts, for me to have half a chance at being taken seriously. But the friend who trails his hand too far down my back, the lover who chooses to bury my no beneath all the yes that came before it, the boy I called myself falling for who played bass in church. None of them are monsters. Yet memories of them still hide beneath my bed, breath hot with denial, whispering doubt into my dreams, without being pinned down, without being drugged, without being underage, without dark alleys and strangers with weapons, and even with any of these, my story has no teeth. Nothing with which to attach itself to righteous outrage. We are never victims. Even when there is a fight and DNA under fingernails, even when there's video and scars, even when the world becomes the dumpster behind which you leave our bodies contorted and trembling, our stories are little more than think piece fertilizer, growing clicks and traffic but changing nothing about how we feel forced to sleep fully clothed with lights on, feel forced to never be alone even when solitude would nourish us, feel forced to keep our stories buried out of the blazing rays of unrighteous indignation. For multitudes, there is a place between monster and human where too many travel, a Bermuda Triangle where accountability and remorse vanish in the swirling, turbulent waters of patriarchal violence. Instead of telling the truth, instead of shouting our stories into the storm to be swallowed in self-righteous solidarity, we watch as monuments and murals, accolades, and opportunities are heaped upon these beings. Instead of grieve, we survive. So I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that the particular part of that poem is titled On Being a Survivor, and the part that talks specifically about kind of feeling forced to never be alone because of it not being safe is really directly influenced by June Jordan's poem About My Rights. So if somehow you are unfamiliar with that piece, please look it up. I wish she could still be with us. We definitely need her wisdom and her light, but I will keep doing my best to honor that legacy. I wrote this poem for my child. She's 5, which is really awesome and really terrible if you have ever raised children. It's really great and really awful all the time, every day. So, and I love her so much. So I tried with this piece to capture the incredible that I experienced being her mother. I tired of writing poems for white people, so I gave birth to one they can't read. A copper-skinned poem revised for 37 weeks and 5 days, a poem with my exuberance wound helix around each curl, laughing loud toward the sky. A poem with my resistance etched into a tiny furrowed brow. I gave birth to a poem with my rage alchemized into a gilded voice, never backing down, never silent on command. A poem with my hope sewn carefully to its sternum, a little patchwork yet certain all the same. I gave birth to a poem that doesn't know any words but synonyms for love and freedom, a poem that careens down sidewalks, ecstatic shrieks, prayers laid at the highest altar. This poem's eyelids are lined with the silk of my faith. This poem is invincible. Still, one day, though I gave birth to this poem, this people's poem, I know someone will try to read her anyway. Failing, they will demand I translate, but the poem I birthed was never meant for their understanding, for between the lines of this poem's lashes, I placed a single dream, a future that is this poem's and this poem's alone to write. I really like this poem, and it really has a lot of cussing. feel free to have those conversations later. Before I do my last two pieces, I have to shout out the Patrice Lumumba Writing Group, which is where I met several of these folks. It's where a lot of these poems came from. It's one of the most special places I've ever had the blessing to be a part of, and I have soared as a creative since being part of that group, and just as a human also. So thank y'all. Fuck the police. Their badges, their guns, their Ray-Bans, their boots, their grins. Fuck the politicians. Fuck the government at every level. All three branches of this cursed fig tree. Fuck the blustering about draining the swamp. Fill it. Flood DC's now flavorless streets until every Volvo and S-Class rests rusting beneath the Potomac. Fuck the stock market. Fuck more expensive money made from codes instead of cotton or coin. Fuck money, period. Fuck how it's treated as deity, determining daily who gets to eat, who gets to have a home, who gets to garden, who gets to have clean water and earth beneath their toes. Fuck asking for permission to breathe. Fuck the schools. Fuck the superintendents. Fuck the standardized tests and the scantrons they wrote in on. Fuck straight rows, blank walls, silenced children. Fuck puppet pedagogies. Fuck academic coaches and performance reviews. Fuck your principal doing the Dougie at a school assembly celebrating the perfect attendance and high GPAs of children better adjusted to our genocide than their peers. Fuck white teachers in deep East Oakland, Chicago or DC South Side, in rural black communities, anywhere at all in New Orleans. Fuck white teachers, including the ones with brown skin, making themselves martyr for student loan forgiveness. Do I really need to say fuck student loans? Fuck white people and their adjacents who still think I need to first stop and confirm they are in fact here to slit my throat and make me mop my own blood for minimum wage before decking them in the mouth, before raising strip malls, before screaming. But also fuck giving up. Fuck losing sleep or working alone or limiting your imagination. Fuck hopelessness. Fuck silencing your rage or your grief or your joy. Most of all, fuck losing. We have a duty to win. I really want to move, but like I saw the camera angle and like I got right here. This is it. So I'm gonna try to move as much as I can within this pleasant, very pleasant box. Compromise is saying, I will give this up for you, and I will give this up for you in return, because the joy is in the giving. Knowing this, I no longer wonder at the self-indulgent ignorance white men carry with them like badges, if not of honor, then of steadfast and toxic mediocrity. So I don't crave white skin or its parasitic privileges. My soul is no longer guided by whiteness. I will not give up this penny-cheeked profile, this mighty melancholy in my bones, this libation that is my sweat and tears. Just remember, they demanded this phoenix, rising from our former hopes and handshakes with crimson wing and razored beak, when we were robbed of ourselves in exchange for lost limbs and legacies, when we compromised our homes, nations, gods for shanty towns, police states, crumbling shoebox sanctuaries, when we traded our children, their buoyant self-image and melodic slang for lip fillers on porcelain teens, butchering habitual beat and viral videos. I'm just saying. With all this compromise, you think our very existence would be pure joy, thick and amber honey sweet. Instead, we gave muted suits and slick scalps in exchange for ruby woo map lines and canine teeth to the calf. When we gave every mood, sermon and music, they gave us bullets to torso, to skull, to sheetrock above one's sleeping, swollen belly. Compromise with white supremacy has only ever come with the promise of more loss. There is no balancing this ledger laden with our suffering. So I will no longer take responsibility for the fact the white imagination is a mausoleum, only capable of seeing a nation of deceased playgrounds in my eyes. I won't give up anything else when history and yesterday prove compromise is a word white folks use to dream themselves anew and give up nothing in return.
Please, some more applause for Meilani Clay. But you know, I wanted to talk about Patrice Lumumba Group. And why it must be re-emphasized now. You know, all great advances in any kind of art really come out of gathering, working with each other, workshopping, bouncing off of each other's psyches. And no one has, you know, we have almost coming up to the microphone as the human catalyst for this Patrice Lumumba writing group that has, you know, that has nurtured us, kept us sane. You know what I mean? Was like the first activity we did in the pandemic. Like the first time I talked to somebody else. Yeah, when we were really in the pre-vaccine throes of it. You know, just the most stand-up poet I know. Along with being the author of a brand new book of poetry, No Bedtime Stories for Soil, that is actually being released tomorrow. Published by me. So coming up to the microphone, someone who owes me a favor. No, I'm just playing. I'm just playing. It's really been my greatest honor, man, to know this cat. And you know, for your mind's pleasure, Landon Smith. Where you at, man? Like right there? That's you? That's like you right there? What's it though?
All tall people always got jokes. There are 2 less feet in a tent this evening. And somewhere, a prison guard gives another close-fist speech about order. The air thins above a tent pole eviction notice while a new jumpsuit is handed to a tooth on a cement floor. Nikki Bass photo shoot next to gentrified housing while Noel Gallo votes to steal more Fruitvale money into patrol cars. Leach Van ready to pile up bodies just to bleed corners dry for development while Gary Yee red tags another black school for prison bed construction. At least there will be clean street corners, a dirty mouth in a suit will say. At least there will be law and order. You know, dirt is always better when swept under a rug or at least onto the next encampment. And 3 tents blown on the other side of 580 will lower property value just for more protest signs to pop up just to be ignored next week. But did you know there is no such thing as an empty bomb threat thrown at a black house? Greenwood and pine still can't move past the cement with marrow mixed in, so excuse me for taking white history seriously as I walk down these HBCU steps with a target on my back for when another white board member bans a book from speaking on, and another black mayor steps up to a podium to say it is a shame. Or, in these troubling times, or, we are better than this, despite all the evidence otherwise. And matter of fact, who is we? Who this we that be in backroom meetings? Who be this we turning the wheel on the ship? Who be the we saying that we do it to ourselves, saying we can't get respect until we respect ourselves? Who? Who this we coming sideways out your mouth talking about mo pay for leeches to put up see something, say something signs and turn around and pocket dial bomb threats to black campuses talking about we better watch our back, we better hurry up and die, we better go back now that the labor costs more than the ground meat on my back. Who this we supposed to be better than? Who this we supposed to be a part of? Sitting on the left side of an abandoned building because I took white history for what it is and spoke to the remains of the last threat, shoveled onto a whitewashed MLK quote, shoveled onto the left hand of a Philadelphia cut short, shoveled onto a Tulsa, a Rosewood, I am on pace to be called the nigger 212 times by summer. It is January. And there are only 10 days left in this month, and I refuse to be a corpse by the 3rd, but catch me fist closed on the 4th, and I might be gone by the 5th if this white woman in power has her way, which is the same as that white man in that seat, which is the same as that last missed check, which is the same as that eviction notice. My mother says the cloth of my ancestors makes me bulletproof. So I put on a new head wrap every time passive-aggressive headshots fire off of cradled tongues down into the gutters of unswept streets where I'm told that I belong. And I walk around with cash just in case I pass another cardboard sign, giving a fortune to crates just to see more hungry mouths the next month. It's almost like I cannot fix these encampments on my own, like starvation is intentional, like billions in surplus don't exist. Maybe by the end of this poem you can tell me what the cause is, while I kick 3 more election pamphlets off my doorstep since I don't do drugs on Tuesdays ever since my neighbor overdosed on Kamala Harris bumper stickers. Meanwhile, the city of San Francisco made $90 million in parking tickets. Just to not have affordable housing, just to hire more pigs to put tickets on windshields, to pay for pigs putting tickets on windshields, and my last $60 goes to the cardboard sign again. You know, a fist fight is always fair to the waistband with a gun tucked inside. You know, an eviction is always fair to the feet standing on a bankroll. And my cousin told me that not all skin folk are kinfolk, so I'd keep 2 feet in my back pocket so I land on my feet when I'm sucker punched between line breaks and a neoliberal slides the judge lump sums to slide me into solitary silence so that a white tenure professor can tell you that these are not poems, that these are lyrics, that these are a soapbox, and that they are too unhoused and must cut their hair before they deserve a home. But I drag infected minds through the broken tires of my unread poems. McCarthyism smashed into my dinner plate, hoping to crack the communists from my swollen red knuckles. John Ehrlichman shoulder shrugs my car upside down to the part of Foothill buried in flashing patrol lights, while Reaganism hovers above my neighborhood like smog in my kids' new lungs. Binary pen strokes flood Lake Merritt with pay stations, hoping to drown out sideshows. There is blood on your overcoat, Libby. What good is a progressive leech, Libby, if I will still be 3 courts low after the confirmation hearing confirms me to be a necessary sacrifice on the white Jesus altar of justice, harmonizing about the beauty in my execution. South Carolina firing squad triggering my last rites before I become a useful bullet in the throat of my comrades. And my ancestors brought me to this page, even the ones standing on saltwater still. But you know, I dragged my lineage through dirt roads, sandstorms, scraping knees on cement cinder blocks stacked in the way. My wrist cut deeply on the journey, saltwater stinging bones showing before someone else tells me I'm healed, tells me to move on. When I drag lineage by their wrists, wiping off eraser dust mixed with diamond flakes they sold back to us, saying that's all our hands were good for. Losing limbs between borders some European gave name to, that I should be proud of, that Sing-Bay PA revolted to come back to. Maybe my wrist bleed on the chains he broke, just to be Spielberged in white saviorhood. I feel my lineage weighted down beneath Valongo wharf remains, paved over just to be paved over, just to be built atop under silk cover smelling like liberation stranglehold, while I drag lineage to a native language, not a native language, in hopes of speaking with lineage between borders and sandstorms I was told I didn't need to know. Enough Mende for struggle. I drag my lineage with dislocated wrists, separated at the broken tree branch, to a tall tale pillared by monument and sand in my shoes. Meanwhile, this top chef says he is a white guy from SoCal, says he has no culture so he can't decide what to cook. Looking for sympathy on a plate, like I don't have sales receipts hanging in my family tree limbs. Like my mama's mama didn't have recipe claimed as family heirloom by a plantation dinner table. Chalkboard castration, telling tall tales and colorblind pillow talk, but got the audacity to act like percentages make you whole. Stress from repressed trauma might suffocate pops before Fruitvale becomes demolition tape, becomes parking lot burial ground, becomes museum plaque of what used to stand tall but was smothered by imperial ceremony. But what the fuck do I know? And who made saving you my problem? When I'm still cast iron cut on wrist, still told to vote my way free with concessions this project paid me into. Still finding white fingernails in African borders. Call it genocide again if you want to see a white nation stiffen, if you want to see what dodging a bullet does to a stuffed pocket, but throw the man-made empire at it and you might slow the awareness though. You might bake in enough war for the dough to rise naturally. I woke up a kidnapped victim the same day teacher told me to put my hand on my heart. Haven't felt it beat in my own body for some time now. Might find it in colonizer pockets along with the keys to my lineage. Museum made a display of my remains and made me pay for admission. Told me stealing is only stealing when the body can talk back. And while we're at it, I hate no oppression is in your mind ass motherfucker. Kidnapped victims falling in love with their captors. One said, America's for sale. Another said, let's see who can assimilate best, turn grandma's scars into theme park admission, but kill the pig in you or you'll find yourself singing love songs to shackles, glorifying Secret Service breath on the back of bloodstained suit collars, and for what? So you could preach genocide for sport? So you could dance on Seneca Village ashes? I'm still trying to figure out how to be black and unsurveilled. FBI vault redacted my file just to save skin. But not even dry my bullet hole yet, but you can hear the same script being prepared. No dust on the playbook when its use is constant. When capitalist hellscape must be written as hero. Tax money funding assassinations abroad, but they got the nerve to tell me that canceling student loans is immoral. Critical thinking cut off at the knees offer profit margin pastime. Usurper made their way into your mudroom and left blood on the hardwood. Sold you a tale about freedom and patriotism, about spreading democracy. But never pick up a book and you might think Cuba is destitute. You might think Palestine is terrorist. You might think blindfold the true firing squad justice and soldiers bullets in the backs of kids is honor. Might have you high on red baiting before you could even sell your labor first, before you could call healthcare equitable, before you could call capitalism meritocratic, before you step foot on occupied indigenous land and thought property tax was penance for assimilation. Before you realize we all died by poison, died by colonized textbook, died by a language that stole you from you, stole the kneecaps from your resolve and told you plantation life was the real American dream. Then kissed you with poisoned tongue and told you your death had no color. But you know, a real poet told me once that not every story has to appeal to the heart. It can appeal to the spine, sever vertebrae shouting, hear me out, from straitjacket buckles and scratches on cement walls that made my spine property of the state, that made me 2/3 of a pass the future left bloodstained baton swing, slush from bomb exploding outside what used to be my bedroom wall just long enough for the taste of robo to be family heirloom. Nobody even asked where I wanted my body to be buried. I'm talking to this soil like everything is a weapon formed against me. Melatonin making Medgar Evers my docent on this impending bullet train. Woke up 10 times lost. Coroner can tell you jokes 3 minutes past America if you wait long enough. Might diagnose you as a rebel if you speak too loudly about the cause of death. Every 20 minutes, another puppet dies by teleprompter. Tells a revolutionary to just vote if they want change. Tucks in sheets on deathbed for preparation. Hell, how you gonna make it out alive anyway? You might as well laugh through that ash coat and lungs. We used to breathe air, now all we do is drink water and pray to the fire next time. Burning flag flapping around a body somebody deemed illegal somewhere. Drew a border and said, I dare you to cross. Let's see if your lungs can take in more air than this bullet can take from you. First step is to dare you to dream. Second step is to get you to fall in love with the sound of a growling stomach. Third step is to sacrifice you to a tree branch to put you on a postcard. What good is the poet with no neck, the coroner will joke. Only half of the half he spoke to listened anyway. My burial plot placed center stage for encore viewing. Floating on the Sierra Leone River, I am less weight than tree. Tree telling my neck it meant to shield me before I became a dash somewhere within this project where I can't even float. You know, a white poet told me once that not every poem needs to be a revolution. Like my pen not attached to a fist with scab knuckles from punching through oak memories, trying to talk to my uncle in Haiti I've never met who's trying to talk to my aunt's headstone in Brazil. These crop-dusted palms never got to touch. I must be a carpenter from all these splinters, stinging white prayer circles gathered around stapled corners. I was born a poet, and I have hitchhiked my way to a last meal beneath this tree. So let me pause for a second and see how much Sierra Leone is left beneath my fingernails. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the library. My name is Natalie. I just want to take a moment before we have Tongo come up here and say hello to all of you. I'm the librarian here at the African American Center. I do want to say some thank yous. I don't see him out here, but Josiah, we had a conversation, we ran into each other while everybody was on lockdown, and he was telling me about doing a spoken word album with Tongo. And from that conversation, he introduced me to Sonny, who you'll meet in a little bit. And so I'm so grateful to Josiah for making this come to fruition. And thank you to all the poets here tonight. I'm speechless. I'm like shaking listening to all of your poems, and you really blessed us. So thank you, Lady Revolutionary. Thank you, Meilani. Thank you, Landon Smith. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. So I don't do introductions like Tongo does. So I'm going to have to read a little bit here, so you have to bear with me. But yes, again, we're here to celebrate his debut record. I go to the railroad track and follow them to the station of my enemies. Yes. And this album was produced with Rockin' Your Heads Records and Sonny Smith. Again, you'll meet them both shortly. And Tongo, I thank you too. We just met through text. I'd seen you perform when I was a student so many times. I'd got in line like a little fan, had you sign my book and everything. And so it's just been a pleasure to kind of put this evening together with you. So I thank you for your time. And that's all. So thank you, everyone. Tongo, please come up here and...
I had this dream, planted dead in a weekday that I was laid up in the hospital. And people kept coming into my room by the dozens. And each dozen had special handshakes for each other and occasionally current dance moves. And they would kick my hospital bed from time to time to let me know that they would be dancing from this hospital room on out to my grave. There's strange cha-chas and soft shoe shuffles, disco spins like they were dancing for a white sundial, marking numbness in their feet, drum race rioting. I was ready to die because, you know, ask a musician in the tombs after court, it's the surroundings that is the uniform, but still I just couldn't bring myself to visualize against God. One of them stood over me like a conductor, waving their arms over my body, directing my heart to beat fainter and fainter, directing the tubes to turn the fluids back. And I faded from consciousness with thud after thud on the legs of my bed as they danced wilder and wilder. Well, wild but meek, or artificially meek like an artificial pastor told them to be. I was to be a projection or some kind of character to be laid at their feet. You know? You're the only one participating in the revolution today, they mocked. And I was ready to go because there's plenty of pianos that could use a new soul, and I'm thinking we're supposed to be in the revolution for as long as it takes, so you can punch me out now. I was born with one foot in a lime pit anyway. Check it out. No one bothered to ask the doctor if I was really dead. Too busy strutting, too busy kissing. And I kept fading and fading with only enough breath and sweet consciousness to count their smiles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, And then I heard a voice, a whisper, and it was counting with me. 6, we said. 7, we said. 8. Then another joined us. 9, 10, then another. I haven't been sleeping, mama. I've been in a trance. I haven't been eating. I've been washing my hands off the port of Charleston. There is blood on the fog. Societies wander together like hopeful drops of a virus. Citizen testaments bent on offering me a nation of breadwinners to hold me back like it's a Brinks. I wrinkle the concrete sometimes like flesh. My Martin Luther King permanence turned away from a podium into the reeds like God is the dangerous twin. Black August to the mountaintop balcony on my bedroom floor. You know, they steal you from the earth itself and suspend you in your broken neck from their foolish euphoria. From the loyalty oath of their gray superstitions, loyalty oath of their agrarian reform, I return to my mother completely disrespected. For peeling the heat off of purgatory, they kill poets like me. Walk me away from my poems, never to be heard from again. In this foul industrial complex of bloodlines picked over, picked through, a sport and spiritual death of your devil at least half made, police become a pretty word. I'm reading a lynch mob shoestrings like they were tea leaves teaching you how to write about cities. It's the 25th century in the mirror, people. Tyranny against your chump change, you're a chump to be mocked even with a gun in your car. A cubit of needlework spelled tune for the proletariat, the relapse ministry. Talented people curled up in a fetal position next to a diamond dime. Just another service day in the theatrics of tea house fascism, in a bouquet of surveillance cameras in the poverty of God. New blue eyes, corpses of water, a newly potted presidency of one big shiny corn if you ask an animated capitalism and other non-literal voice. Killing is white freedom. The deification of hyphens. Medicine bread and picture shows, great protesters in LA, guests of our ink. Drop-kicking rose in the graveyard, DC mink. Like a stone torn in half, the pen advances despite CIA guideposts, despite non-African past and futures. A metaphorical but not surreal day in the horn-ridden life. Horn player, improvising king. Like a radio prize fight featuring Shango himself, a real hand speaks the land of racism. May I return to the ground? May I make progress with the gun? On our mother Emmanuel, they put on music that evening. A swinging type body language for you to drink with fermented $5 bills for your body language. Some applause, my past stomach lining, neither a good thing nor a bad thing, like being psychic on the way to a lethal injection. Here to sit you down with Lady Day. Lady Day leading youth who surrender their souls to Africa too soon. Polly thought floating in the cup of water, she saved me, accessing my stomach, accessing the love of the American lynched. Coat sleeves wooden avalanche into the wrist, our mother Emmanuel avalanche into the sharp keys pain, the deal you make with pain, piano makes sense for them, laying hands on the world gradually, addressing the bend and necks on the streets of the north, traveling sailing in pain, repeating pain in the north, 10 trigger fingers on that piano if harmony would have me, putting 100 fights on every direction offered her, Lady Day, leaning on trees again, recruiting the countryside itself, saying lay your plan on this lightning, make your poems a corner pocket of men, I've greeted the blues itself, America may clean my dead body but will never include me. There goes the poet, killing without killing. Never mind this painting of your language. May I be a meaningful lynching. A crow's passing, good and dead by the afternoon. I go to the railroad tracks and follow them to the station of my enemies. A cobalt-toothed man pitches pennies at my mugshot negative all over the United States. There are toddlers in the rock. I see why everyone out here got in the big cosmic basket and why blood agreements mean a lot and why I get shot back at. I understand the psycho-spiritual refusal to write white history or take the glass freeway. White skin tattooed on my right forearm, ricochet sewers near where I collapsed into a rat-infested manhood. My new existence is living graffiti. In the kitchen with a lot of gun cylinders to hack up. I mean, house of God in part, no cops in part, my body brings down to Christmas. The new bullets pray over blankets made from the old bullets. Pray over the 28th hour's next beauty mark. Extrajudicial Confederate statue restoration. The waistband before the next protest poster. Hey, by the way, time is not an illusion, Your Honor. I will save your deaths for last. You're a widow, Your Honor. You're moving money again, Your Honor. It's only raining one thing. Non-white cops and prison guard shadows reminded me of spoiled milk floating on an oil spill. A neighborhood making a lot of fuss over his demise. A new lake for a Black Panther party. Malcolm X's ballroom jacket slung over my son's shoulder. The figment of village. A new news to a new white preacher, all in an abstract painting of a president. Bought slavery some time, didn't it? The tantric screeches of military bolts and election Tuesday cars, a cold-blooded study in leg irons, proof that some white people have actually fondled nooses. That sundown couples made their vows of love over opaque peach plastic and bolt-action audiences. The Medgar Evers II is definitely my favorite law of science. Fondled news clippings and primitive Methodists, my arm changes imperialisms. Simple policing versus structural frenzies. Elementary school script versus even wider white spectrums. Artless bleeding in the challenge of watching civilians thinking terrible rituals they have around the corner. They let their elders beg for public mercy. I'm going to go ahead and sharpen these kids' heads in the arrows myself and see how much gravy spills out of family crest. Modern fans of war, what? With their t-shirt poems and t-shirt guilt and me having on the cheapest pair of shoes on the bus, I have no choice but to read the city walls for signs of my life. You know, apparently too much of San Francisco was not there in the first place. This dream requires more condemned Africans, to put another way state violence rises down. Or still life is just getting warmed up. Or army life is looking for a new church and ignored all other suggestions. Or folktale writers have not made up their minds as to who is going to be their friends. This is the worst downtown yet. And I've borrowed a cigarette everywhere. I've taken many a walk to the back of a bus that led on out the back of a storyteller's prison sentence, then on out the back of slave scars, but this is my comeback face. I left my watch on the public bathroom sink and took the toilet with me. Threw it at the first bus I saw, eating single mothers half alive. It flew through the bus line number and on out the front of the White House. Hopefully you find comfort downtown, but if not, we brought you enough cigarette filters to make a decent winter coat. A special species of handshake lets all know who's king and what's the lifespan of uniform cloth. This coffin needs to quit acting like those are birds singing. Rusty nails have no wings, have no voice other than that of a white world dying. Their book pages in the gas pump catchy, isn't it? The way 3 nooses is the rule, or the way potato sack masks go so well with radio codes, or the way condemned Africans fought their way back to the ocean only to find waves made of 1920s burnt up piano parts, European backdoor deals, and red flowers for widows who spent all day in the sun mumbling in San Francisco. Red flowers, but what's the color of a doctor visit? There are book titles in the streets. Book titles like Hero, You Make a Better Zero, or Hey Fur Coat Lady, the President is Dead, or Pay Me Back in Children, or They Hung Up Their Bodies in their own museums, and other book titles pulled from a drum solo. Right here, Hero. Lied to hiding place. All the bullets in 10 precincts know where to go. There's no heaven nor any other good idea in the sky. Politics means that people did it and people do it. Understand that when in San Francisco and other places that was never really there. I bet this ocean thinks it's an ocean, but it's not. It's just 6th and Mission Street. All know who's king. King of thin things, you know, like America, I'm proud to deserve to die. I'm gonna eat my dinner extra slow tonight in this police state candy dispenser you all call the neighborhood. No set of manners goes unpunished. Never mind a murderer's insomnia or the tea kettle preparing everyone for police sirens. You know, I talk facing away from the dead. They replace me with the change in my pocket. A penny that's yet to be invented. They say you have to know how to cut a throat on the way to cutting a throat. And after sleeping on a mattress made from 2 garbage bags of clothes, I became content with the small gestures of plantation fires. I mean, playing with couch ashes, I realized how weird the universe was. It exists in so many places, so many random things. It interrupts me while I'm trying to dream. Like your clay correspondence, Lord. To be transparent, I have 20 books next to a bullet like an old man giving advice at the beginning of a revolution. I've really done it, Lord. Explored the mumbles of my mind, explored what's naturally there, and I found no brainwashing. I found Africa, Lord. I have a future. It takes place in the diasporic South. I have morning possessions, modern militancy. I mean, windows to the South. I'll walk on a missile for food. I guess you will not want flowers for a few years, Lord. Will I be tied face to face with the country? I'll merge with us, Lord. Old metal versus new metal. Old metal versus a pool of meandering imperialist faces of multiculturalism of sorts. The dead replaced me with a comedian's chest cavity instead of a chest cavity held tight. It takes a violent middleman for me to talk to myself. Stories that travel through other people's stories, a song about a song, a hemisphere about a hemisphere, stories that travel through a conquered poet. Hey, my mother remembers Africa, Lord. She killed on behalf of you, Lord. I wore a machete all winter and no one asked me what it meant. I read 1,000 books in front of the world. What I do is fight poems and sleep through decadent San Francisco prayer circles, watch people play for post-working class associative services or recreations of a governor's desk, ruling class art of utility, playing find a sociopathic bureaucrat, a day some white people scared even easier, TV in a basket next to a ceramic baby, wearing ceramic armor, musket progeny fantasizing through the art of the poor, their trendy latches locked before God, black art hunted down like a dog. I hand over my friends, Lord. Lord, I think I'm gonna die in a war. I mean, unelected white people in my small house like a blues song of no spiritual effect, a dollhouse H-bomb, a pony show near dead bodies, apartheid weddings that go right. Apartheid white people who give birth to mathematicians, the spiritual continuity of barracks and police stations, a chemical interpretation of a Sunday trip to church. Church smells in their pockets, a river mistaken for a talking river. No autobiography outside of small personal victories of violence and drug use. Made in the image of God trinkets, a white abolitionist confided in their children about chemical assurances that they will switch from black artist to white artist, from black God to white God, from black worker to white worker. I think about you cautiously, Lord. In the same way I think about my childhood, Lord. Foxhole Friday nights, most of life is mute. A comedian points out a planter's field to a priest, King Sugarcane, King Cotton, King Revolutionary, the Ball Essential, containing all modes of shallow introduction, introducing an unlisted planter class speaking about fevers and balance sheets and reassuring the masses that we could figure out our fathers later. A priest took my mother lightly, Lord, stood in front of parishioners re-raveling fantasies about black art. Priest reading confidently before I broke him and broke his parallel. After the day, I've never been a poet before. A little brother watches his big brother's friends, they lean rifles on shelter walls, they agree with me and call it literature. It's a simple matter, this revolution thing. To really lie to no one, to keep nothing godlike, to write a poem for God. You know, all street life to a certain extent starts fair. Sometimes with a spiritual memory even. Pre-dying soul clap, your father dying even. Maybe I pushed the city too far. My sensitivities to landfill districting and minstrel whistles. White supremacist graffiti on westbound rail guards all overcome and reauthored. Reauthored by revolutionary violence that chose its own protagonist. Or muted stage of genius. The garbage is growing voices. Condensed Marxism for warrior depressives. Underpasses in their pockets because they just might be deities, a decent bid on the Panther name. A merciful Marxism. Disquieted home life, a metaphor for relaxing next to a person who is relaxing next to a gun. I stared at my father for a few seconds, then returned to my upbringing. Returned to the souls of Ohio black folk. Revolution damn near pagan at this point. You know what the clown wants. The respect of the ant. Wants to interpret pain only. Wants to pull a 38 out of a begging bowl. Wants me to hurt my hand on his pen. I'm not tired of these rooms, just tired of the world to give them a relativity. My only change of clothes prosecuted the government finally learned how to write poems, shootouts that briefly align, that make up a parable. A parable is like, white bodies are paid well. Do white men even have leaders? Are all white people white men? A rat pitches a river, can almost taste the racial divide, can almost roll a family member's head into a city hall legislative chamber, knows who in this good book will fly. All I do is practice, Lord. Decided not to talk out of anger ever again. Met my wife at the same time I met new audience members for our pain. We passed each other cigarettes and watched cops win. The city gone, uniquely linear, Harlem of the West, do a true universe. I will always remember you in fancy clothes, my wife said. So here I sit, twisting in silk ideation. Rifle made of postbellum targets made of an honest language. This San Francisco poetry is how God knows that it's me whining. Riding among the lesser respected wolves, lesser observed militarization. Dixie-less prison bookkeeping, the California great coats are coming. Lynch mob gossip and bourgeois debt collection, it's tempted to change professions mid-poem. In the Chicago briefing, the white sergeant saying blank slate for all of us after this black organizer is dead. Standard academics toasting $2 wine at the tank parade. Bam, nothing, Lord, just nuclear cobblestones, gun line athleticism, and the last of the inherited asthma. Children giving white dolls to play with and fear. Facial expressions borrowed from rich people's shoestrings. I can hear hate and teach hate and call tools by people names and name people dead to themselves. No one get naturalized except Federal agent soon, carving the equator in the throat soon. I'm sorry to make you relive all this, Lord, all this pre-dime monarchy, friends putting up politician posters and snorting the remainder of the pace. Minstrel script shoveling into the walls by their elders, my children sharpening their quarters on the city's edge. For these audiences, I project myself into a ghost-like state. For these gangsters, I do the same. Every now and then, take a nervous look east. Sleep becomes Christ, sleep starts growing a racial identity. Do you ever spiral, Lord? Has the gang age betrayed us? Be patient with my poems, Lord. There's so much pain, it's a point to crime. I mean, it has to be if race traders come with it, Lord. Is that my revolver in your hand? You know better presidents than these have yawned their cages, have called us holy slaves, fill the school libraries with cop documentaries, baby. I don't have money for food. Shit. I don't have a present moment at all. Thank you. The end. The end. So I guess Sonny's coming up here. Yeah, Sonny coming up here. Boy.
I think I'm interviewing you.
All right. We'll have the seat.
Which is could be a little clumsy because when the email said interview with Tongo and Sonny, and I was like, what are they going to ask me? And I didn't actually, write any questions. I have a lot of things I'm interested in. Thank you for that, by the way.
Right on.
That was really beautiful. The subjects you write about are sacred and important. I actually have a couple questions about process, if that's all right. Because I know myself as an artist, I'm kind of interested in how you make this stuff as much as what you are making. But so I hope these aren't too light for anybody. But do you write most of your stuff in? Do you start writing already in your mind, or when you are writing down on paper or computer or whatever you do, is it start to come out that way?
Yeah, it's all. Nothing really happens before I pick up the pen. It might even be in the grip. I think I don't start thinking in a certain way until I get my hand around a pen. I think there's there's kind of a shift towards trying to use more subconscious voices to get to move thought to thought. When my hands go like this, I start thinking in political dispatches. I start thinking about people's assemblies and this type of thing, and what Amilcar Cabral thought about this or that. So it's really nice. It's all moves. It's all moves on the page. I start small, and then when I get my hands on something that just kind of has a ring or a vibration to it, I excavate around and see what little mountain range will reveal itself to me.
Yeah, that makes sense. It kind of starts somewhere in the subconscious, but at some point you're seeing what came out from the subconscious, and you start to sculpt it consciously at some stage.
Yeah. I mean, and there's even a groovy kind of there's sort of a access point to other people's to the psyches of other perspectives. In that kind of if you go down if you go down one floor on the elevator, you end up in a more a kind of a more open space where then I can actually appropriate different people's vantage points in order to make my point. So it's a bounce. It's a bounce back and forth. I don't try to run away from the cliche as far as I can. It's like away from the cliche, then back towards it, away from my cliche, then towards someone else's, and on and on and on.
So sometimes you're inhabiting kind of characters, even if they're not, if you're not trying to make anybody know that you are.
Yeah, I mean,
writing from other.
yeah. Think about a dream. You know, I don't know. Maybe I'm different, man. I've literally seen like millions, maybe not millions, but I've seen 100,000 people that I've never seen before in a dream, or had 100,000 conversations I've never had before. It's really easy for your mind to cough up a shade or to cough up a kind of an impression of a person. So I just kind of lean into it. I mean, even think there's like a point, you know, you can actually do an impression of anyone if you don't have to physically do it. And see, poetry is all just internal. It's all in the mind. So within the mind, I can run. I can become anything or anyone. Or you see how everyone is kind of present. So it's almost in a way, if you just kind of lean on the natural shape, lean on your natural shapes. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all doing an impression, right? Like we just decided that this impression right here is the path to safety or success. You know what I mean? And, but really, you can pick anyone up like this, right? And so it's just kind of if you relax your persona, you can build all kind of avatars to make various points. And you can also use yourself, how you actually exist, you know, like instead of looking for the perfect weather to write a poem with internally, I mean, you know, I'll take every little which way I'm feeling and build a perspective.
Yeah. I mean, I have found it easier as a songwriter sometimes, historically, to sing as if I'm someone else or or something else, or because if I write something from what I think is my own perspective, it doesn't always feel authentic, I guess, because my own self might be shifting all the time.
Right, because ourselves is full of vendettas, you know what I mean? and man, poetry is just where we want to settle all scores, you know, and you know, go ahead and settle them. But there's also, you know, there's a deal with that devil that, you know, you then kind of you have to play the self-absorption a little closer, and you know, it's almost like self-absorption is like tunnel vision on the page. You only see so much, both in a kind of like a geographical kind of sense, but also in a within like the kind of the anatomy of a thought, within the like molecular structure of a thought. You can only see but so much within an idea when you're worried about presenting a defendable self.
Oh yeah, that's great. When you're in a place where you feel like you know, I don't know, a sad place, or something's happened to you that's devastating or hard to get out of, do you write your way out of it? Or do you get out of it some other way and then write in retrospect?
Yeah, no, you know, this little kind of incarnation of my little wherever this little species of poem I've kind of wandered into started with a weird, not weird, but with a practice that I had never done before, which was to actually put a timer on, and like for hours, or 2 hours, 3 hours, 2 hours. Um, and what happened like the very first night I did that, I wrote this poem, and it was pretty groovy, and and I was juiced, and then I looked down at the clock, and only 15 minutes had passed. And I was like, what are we gonna do for another hour and 45 minutes? And it was from that dejection, from that dejection actually kind of arose this lucidity of craft and ability to be more um, critical, not in a stern way, not in an uptight way, in a more curious way, really, of what's going on. Why is this line full? Why is this line flat? Actually, writing from a state of kind of like boredom is the ideal way for me. Along the way, I developed another little trick, again, really for kind of short circuiting the junkie in you, who wants to just get high off of lines all day long. You know what I mean? Like, ooh, that looks nice. Can we smoke that? No. um. So nah, when I'm in the well, it depends, man. Sometimes all that to say, I'll keep the pen moving um, through all tides, uh, but it's not really a tool of it's not really therapeutic to me or some kind of catharsis. It's just a kind of like a parallel intelligence, and and therefore really almost like a muscle that can atrophy just like any other aspect of consciousness, and it requires a praxis. So all I'm really trying to do is stay in shape.
Yeah. Well, I mean, 2 hours, that's artistic discipline. That's hard, I find. Because I personally am much more random and need to write, I guess, whenever I'm moved to, and when I've tried to, have specific hours in the morning or something like, I want to be like a novelist and wake up at 6 and
Yeah,
do
that's
4 hours.
that's where I got the trick, man. That's it was well, I didn't have the conversation. Somebody else had a conversation with a novelist who basically scoffed at Poetry Month. It was like, a poem a day. You should be writing for hours a day. If you know what I mean? And I said,
It's hard.
well, easy for this world building motherfucker. You know what I mean? I was thinking, you got a whole thing going on. I got this little straggling creek. I was supposed to spend a whole day at the creek. You got a whole planet. I'm sitting here with my trickle. You know what I mean? But yeah.
I mean, I imagine it depends on what you're writing about too. If you're just
Well, man, man, I think the crazy, maybe of all disciplines, why ours is so insane. There actually is. You do actually like so much of what you do before you pick up the pen goes down on that page, and so we can't lose the same day that other disciplines can. Uh, because in order to kind of we're this, I think we're this real fragile kind of I don't want to say like conduit, but it's just like this real fragile opening that is kind of a middle. And if you sit just right, then you have access to all of this. You know, you have access to this kind of musical insight, but you have to. It requires you to. It requires you to really deal with the realities of life. You know, and really participate. Um, Participate in what you would digest and participate in what you would transmute. You know.
Yeah, I mean, if you're well, you and all the writers tonight write about a lot of vulnerable things, which is what makes it, to me, important, and that's hard to sustain. And if you were a novelist that was writing travel adventure books that weren't necessarily vulnerable, you could, it seems like it would be a lot easier to write 4 hours a day. When you're going as deep as all of the poets tonight, I would imagine you need times of regeneration, and maybe there are times when 15 minutes is all that you need to do for your mental health.
No, we must persevere. Because on the on the other side of that equation, I actually look at like internalized hegemony feels like a nightmare to me. You know, a brainwashed consciousness seems would be exhausting. Giving my life to a ruling class agenda is something I fear more than anything. Or just not being a good person. you know, these kind of like the walks away from a humanism. Just look like an absolute chaos that I don't even think I don't think I could survive. I couldn't throw away my compass. Like it just seems like or when I look at times where I was more underwater in my life, I just look like, man, just places you would never. I could never. I'd rather be right here. I'd rather be like this for better, for worse. And I think that's what these revolutionaries knew. That's what pushed them in a way, or what could be. Like I'd rather die. I'd rather die than not be a part of liberation, because that's participating in this death cult. It's just it's not in existence. So yeah, like I'm dog tired right now as we speak. You know what I mean? I've been dog tired for about 6 weeks now. Basically sleeping in 3-hour shifts at this school, occupation, school liberation. Praxis is what me, but there's there's no other way to navigate this reality. Yeah, I mean, and look, I mean, or put another way, we gotta read the news. You know what I mean? Roe v. Wade. You know what I mean? They bless the ruling class for always proving my poems right. You know what I mean? Because just when you think like, am I being a little too harsh? You know what I mean? There's so many nice people. No. and then what do they do? They just they present us with this like like very self-confident and grotesque fascism that should snap us all out of it. Like how many times? How many times? You know. What more do you need to see? You know. Well, again, man, I say this. I say this 100 times a day. I'm gonna keep saying, it. Why were the kids in the cages? How? How do you get 3-year-olds in front of a federal judge? You know. So it's like, what more? What more? What more until we say no? This entire system has to be transformed. The social relations of production has to be transformed. The set of the the state apparatus has to be transformed. Otherwise, it's literally gonna be you next. It's gonna be you next. You know. I mean, keep in mind, I get off the I get off the soapbox in like 0.5 seconds. You know, the Constitution was only voted on by 1 out of 6 white men. They don't even give a fuck about each other. You know? There is nobody in this society that can't be on the wrong side of a fascist weapon or a weapon wielded by a fascist. So, like, there's no other way for me to go about things.
Yeah. Well, your words are a form of leadership in themselves, and that's why I feel honored to have helped with your record, and
Appreciate it.
so thank you. I know the library has a time thing. Did you want to have questions from the audience, or?
I'd like to know how did this record come together? Like why was it not a book? Like why wasn't it another book? How did it become the spoken word album?
That would probably be for me first, I guess. I think I heard you speaking on Instagram on I don't know, I was just surfing around. You do on your phone or whatever. I didn't know you. This is a few years ago. I think it was pre-pandemic. I thought you were articulate. That was my first impression, and I thought that you had a lot of patience with your words, so I was like, I leaned in closer and listened a little bit more. That's just how that started, and I thought, man, no one makes poetry records. It's like, it's almost like it doesn't even happen anymore. And words without music are sometimes more powerful. You know, sometimes when I hear words with music, even as a songwriter myself, I'm like, man, the music is softening the blow of this. It might be good music. It's not a comment necessarily on the value of the musicianship or the music. It's just softens it up. So, and as a kid around 16, 17, interested in literature, I was devouring poetry records. I discovered, there was Kerouac was kind of a big deal. He had things you could listen to. Ginsberg kind of led me to, I remember checking out a James Baldwin record out of the library that I lived near, and there was a Dylan Thomas record, and so I was just a sort of literary kid that didn't think that poetry records were odd. or obscure, and then I didn't think about it for a long time, and I grew up and I did other things in music and stuff, and then I had a label, and I was like, wait, nobody does this. So I approached you, and I have a lot of visions and desires of other records in the same vein, but this was. This is kind of, that was the impetus for asking you why you chose to even answer my email. I don't know.
And I really was just like, cool.
Yeah, that was usually your text. I would kind of have like a long text, and you'd be like, smooth, you know, and I'd be like, do it, and then I'd have like a really long thing, be like, yeah, you know. So it was lopsided like that for a little bit.
I got it. Excuse me. How you doing? I like the poetry you speak. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
We need to change the world. The world is corrupted already. And what you said was beautiful.
Thank you.
And I'm listening, and I hear you. I hear you. Right on, brother. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir.
How's it going, Tongo?
What's up?
I just wanted to say it's an honor to share the space with you, and I literally felt like from the rest of the poets as well, like for real, I felt like neural pathways being created in my brain tonight. The question I have, I don't know if this is maybe just rhetorical, but how can I, or how do you, or how can someone balance my own creativity, poetry, whatever, music, with mobilizing the masses? Like, how does that?
I'm gonna keep it real with you, man. I think it's time to sacrifice our little creativity time and just put it into the mass work, you know. I would love, man, you know, I would love to just, all my peoples know about my amateur guitar, about these little trances I like to go into, and my tragic attempt at understanding physics. Like, there's so much I'm interested in and would love to do besides this besides this war with the ruling class, but they started it. I don't know what else to do. And they keep escalating it, and there's nothing else. You know, I think, and that's what they've thrived on this whole time. Our attempt to have an individual groovy adventure. Let's put that down for a little while. Let's reabsorb our social powers that they have, you know, that they run amok with, both here and everywhere on the planet, you know, and on the biosphere itself. I say we suspend. In fact, I'll be the first. We can all put our careers down right now, if you would like. You know what I mean, I'm down. We can get back. We can get back to building our individual names in a couple of years or something like that. But right now, it's they move so aggressively. This is all they do, is reconsolidate power and destabilize us. And so what this means is we're gonna have to put the good times on hold. Even the stimulator, you know, you'll be okay. You'll be okay. You can still be what you want to be when you grow up, you know what I mean? But man, we got to get this human thing corrected, man. So I would say whatever, double the dose and cut the other dose in half the other activities.
Hey Tongo, it's really great to hear you.
Right on.
How you doing?
Right.
As an artist, I used to read poetry growing up, and I also used to listen to my parents' jazz records all the time. And there's something in the way that you use your actual voice, the timbre of your voice, and then the actual wavelength of what your text is opening up. So it's kind of an incredible double kind of experience between the timbre of your voice, which is changing and moving, and it really seems to have the intonation of like Sonny Rollins or John Coltrane. Like I hear a railroad in your actual voice, the way you use tone. And I was wanting to find out what are some of your inspirations, if there are any, musically or places and people, or what kind of inspiration do you soak up in terms of your delivery and your presence? Thank you.
Actually, I was just talking to a cat about this. I think, you know, I actually think it comes down to meditation. Like a meditation practice really kind of helped me out because it gives you more space. You can relate to. It gives you more space to relate to thoughts with, to relate to energy with, and from that space, you notice these little shapes that are available, and you can ride them and experiment with them and exaggerate them and mute them and you know almost dip in and out of, right? So you don't, but at the same time, it's like, these are words, right? So you don't want to, you know, or let me put it like this, it's kind of like a path of least resistance. So you have, like, during the course of a poem, you have access to different ways of experiencing the poem myself. I can be lost in the idea of it, or overwhelmed, or energized. I can be in that in the idea of this stanza can kind of take over, and I can play it that way, or be really like whatever, angered or humored by whatever, and just kind of just deal with just dealing with the thoughts. But then there's also almost like when I get tired of that, then you can kind of shift your attention to kind of musical potentials, language, and then I'm just really just kind of running experiments, and also actually so this little guitar thing is useless in most in most ways, but it has been helpful in kind of through playing. You start to learn how to, or if you're lucky, I guess I got lucky, to be able to repeat things you just said on a guitar for yourself, like to yourself. So you can kind of improvise a melody, and actually to play it again was a miracle to me. Like, oh whoa, that's a whole statement, and I can say it again. So having that kind of little bit of kind of, I guess, training with myself, I can hear a longer musical idea, even though it's subtle, and I'm not trying to do a lot with it. Like, I'm not trying to make a musical statement, but I can kind of like hear a block or a subtle melody in there, and then I can repeat it, and then I can shift it to comment on it, or go somewhere else. So it's just, and then there's also little, you can get your hands on kind of like little personas might want to come along for the ride, that you can kind of shift into that zone. And then you can also you kind of shift into a place where the decision maker just goes, and there's no distance, or disappears, and there's no distance between like thought and mouth, you know, and it's just like it's moving according to whatever its own interest at the time, you know. And then there's also little, you know, like there's little ways to move with a room as well, in a very abstract way, you know. I mean, we're defensive creatures, you know. So even when things are going great, we're still paranoid, you know. But what I found or wanted into is like you can actually, if you strip an audience of the immediate implication, or really that kind of like the negative, a negative view of what might be going on, there is kind of energies moving through an audience or just moving through one person at a time that you can also kind of have a conversation with musically, you know. So it's like you know, you can, what do you call it? You know, like, not to point you out, but like his foot right here is kind of like, is flexing, was just flexing at a certain pace. So then I could drop into the pace of his foot. Or if somebody else moves, then it can give me a cue. I can use it as a cue to reset myself, you know, this type of thing. But there's really, I wouldn't say infinite, but there are like the search for new landmarks is part of the fun. A new way of getting around with a poem is part of the fun. And I try, like, if I really I only really have one objective when I'm saying poems. I just want to find that kind of sweet spot of discovery just once. That's how I grade it. Like, did I find it today? You know, even if it was quick, even if it was just like a couple words, or it could have been like, you know, or we could have been just, you know, and one with the hurricane, you know. I try to find something, you know, something that I've never done before, you know what I mean? And then over time, if it comes back, then I can kind of make a little science out of it and figure out, like, oh, okay, what did you actually do? What actually happened in this type of thing? And then you let that build your practice, you know. Yeah.
Okay. I just want to take another moment to thank Tongo for being here. Sonny, thank you for being on discussion with him. And also, if we can have a round of applause for Lady Revolutionary, Meilani Clay, Landon Smith. And yes, thank you everyone for being here. There is some informational flyers back there by the table. Our wonderful city librarian, Michael Lambert, is kind of our Vanna White there. Please sign up for the African American Center's newsletter so you can keep up to date with the things that we're doing here. Again, my name's Natalie. I'm the new librarian for the center. We've got plans, so please support us, support local writers. Come back, visit us as we grow. Yes, come back to the library. This is a special place, and we welcome all of you here. So thank you, thank you. There's records in the back there for sale, so support local artists. We also have Tongo's album for checkout too in our audiovisual center down on the first floor too. So please get a library card, come back, and thank you all again for being here. Thank you, thank you.